We are so much better together. And so bliss is here, my friends. And why is bliss here? It's because the earth is always being exposed to more and more blissful light. You know, it is all about light. It is the biggest mystery that sounds so simple. It is all about light. I used to go to these higher schools of learning, and many of us go, and I think all of us actually might be going. And so when we go to these higher schools of learning, we go through different temple teachings, and you know, there's always graduation. And so once you graduate, you go to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. It's just never ending, and it's really fun. And you're learning about all the mysteries about life. And one of the biggest mysteries, when I discovered it, it was just all about light. And this was really fun. This is a really fun story. And I've told it many times about, you know, we are in these classrooms, in these temples, and we kind of have to be tested if we understand the mystery. And when I figured it out, I was like, man, it's so easy. It's all about light. And immediately they took me out and they were like, okay, goodbye, you've done it, you know, but don't tell anyone. I'm telling everyone now. But we all have to actually self-realize it. So if I just say it's all about light, everybody will say, yeah, it's all about light. But when you self-realize it, it is a whole new story. And so I can say it as much as I want here, but we all have to self-realize that it's all about light. It is what creation is about. It's an expansion through light. It is really expansion through sound. And it is an expansion that, you know, you would say it's the expansion of cosmos. And now the question always is cosmos nature or is cosmos divine? And we now know as mystics that nature is actually a manifested divinity. So I always try to bring all the puzzle pieces together, and one of them is the big ascension process. What is an ascension process? Because some people think it's like a spiritual thing, and I think it's more like nature is spiritual. I like to call her divine, because everything that is natural is divine. There is no such thing as, you know, this is nature, but not divine. It is all divine creation. And so she always says she's been hiding in plain sight. She is the book of life all around us. And because when nature changes, she starts emanating this new consciousness to everyone who lives surrounded by nature, who exposes themselves to nature. It's really hard not to be exposed to sunlight, even though some people don't like to go outside. But, you know, the sun itself is evolving us. The earth itself is evolving us. The earth is a magnificent conscious being. The sun is a magnificent conscious being, so committed to illumination. It's a very advanced state of being to be able to become a solar logos. The very advanced state of being, such selfless state of being to become a planetary logos. And so these are the guys and the girls who are evolving us. We are being evolved in our human bodies to once again be more angelic. So we are going through a process. This ascension process is actually just evolution of nature herself. She's evolving her own matter. She's evolving her own biology. She's evolving her own DNA, all of it, you know, it's divine nature. So there is no disconnect between nature and the divine. When I traveled through those many dimensions, I noticed one thing which really struck me. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have some water. What struck me in all these dimensions is the presence of real nature, just the way you know her. And the higher you go in dimensions, and I mean dimensions, you know, not parallel realities. I know that you guys know the difference between the two. When you go to higher dimensions, so let's say you go from the third to the fifth, you will find so much more nature, and nature becomes the religion. Nature is really what then gives us information, and nature is what we love and adore. because we know that nature is divine creation. It's the embodiment of Divine Mother. And it really is also the embodiment of Divine Father, but it's a little different. It's really the Divine Mother who creates the embodiments. So everything that has a body, that has a shape, that is Divine Mother. So when you look at a mountain, that is Divine Mother. She is the elemental being of the mountain. She is the elemental being of a river. She is the elemental being of the ocean. And this is not a fairy tale, you know, it's not like, oh, I imagine that there is Divine Mother in things. It actually is 11:11. I like it. And so she will open up to everyone who approaches her with love. True love really calls her in. Devotion is important, but ideally devotion, you know, when you meet her, it's then you live as devotion. Your life becomes devotion. When you have this personal, I call it encounter, but maybe contact is a better word. When we have personal contact with actually our Divine Mother or with Divine Father, we then live as devotion. We cannot actually be tempted by anything else, because once you get to see what you're part of, you always want to remain part of it. You know, in our human world, what really became so dirty is our minds. And I want to say dirty because those thoughts, I think we all can relate to it. And forgive me if I'm speaking to all of us and some of you feel like you've never had a bad thought. So I'm speaking in general about humanity. The dirtiest part of us was our mental body, because it seemed like no one could see it, so it seemed invisible. And so a lot of stuff was just really stuck in the mental body. And even the way that sometimes we talk to each other, to ourselves, you know, to ourselves, that's what I mean. It's also not very nice sometimes. You know, a lot of people struggled with self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, and all of it. But why? It's because we went through that distortion that allowed it. It actually sunk us into a lot of dirt. And then it was just recycling of this dirt through the mental body. So the number one thing I noticed when you actually embody your divine self, which is available to all of us, this is like the biggest teaching available to humanity now. You know, Yogananda, when he talked about the divine self, he called it a soul. At least that's what I believed, because it was not really understandable then what the divine self is. It's not that he didn't know, of course he knew, but he was just trying to talk to people so that they understood, like, oh yeah, you have a soul. The thing is that that was the divine self, what he meant, because he wanted to express that the divine self is really a reflection of what we call God. And so at the divine self, I call it the fractal of God only because I got to see it. And so when you get to see your divine self, you might have different visuals. But for me, I always show this picture. It contained all the aspects of, again, I'm going to use the word God. So if you take God and you create a fractal of God, it will be the divine self. Again, some people call it the I am presence. And Yogananda called it soul, with a capital S. And so that is the divine self. It is the one that contains God within. And that became so like not attainable to us, you know, through all the mental, you notice that the mental body was like the focus of so many religions and philosophies. Like, how do we get the mental body to stop making so much noise? How do we become a little more masterful? Well, it was really hard, but what I actually have noticed, and I think you guys notice it too, since we are embodying the divine self into the physical, as you know, we are taking this, the soul with a capital S, the divine self, the I am presence, the 12 aspects of divinity, the 12 aspects of God, and we are bringing them into a physical body. We are merging the rainbow body with the big, big rainbow body. It's all about rainbows after all. And so we are bringing the two together. We are creating an angelic human being. And why angelic? You know, we can call it angelic, but there are beings who are so angelic in higher realms, of course, you know, We can call them all angels, but it's really about their nature. What is their nature? The nature is love. That's why we would say angelic. The nature is goodwill. The nature is collaboration, cooperation. It's just amazing. There is no bad thought. And I say bad because we know what a bad thought is. All the judgments, whether they are directed towards the self or others, that those are not good thoughts because they don't lead to greatness of anything. And so we are becoming these angelic beings. And so this is what's happening in our ascension process here, which is a process of nature. We are really returning to this original blueprint. And so we are now making it possible to actually delete the human mind. And I mean human lower mind. So I noticed that when we do this, when we actually do this, what's really available to all of us here right now, nobody can say I can't do it, because it's so the most easiest thing we can do now, like never ever before. Before it, I don't know, like if it was easier after 2012, but to me it became like the most natural thing for all of us to do after like 2020, 2019, 2020. It just became like, take a breath. You can have your entire divine self within you because it is here simply. So what used to be so much, so many practices and years of stuff and meditation and all of it, now it's like, hey, it's just one little decision. Do you want your divine self fully now? Just inhale it, connect, sit properly, stand properly, do some practices to help the body. And so now it is here. So this is the best news on this planet. To me, nothing beats this. It's going to get even better this year. We're going to take it to the next level. But right now, this is the simplest thing that could have ever happened to us. And that is the divine self actually conquers, in a way, the human toxic mind. So when you fully embody your divine self, which is the easiest thing you can do these days, and this is what we've been doing here, your divine mind also gets established within you, and you no longer have negative thought. And to me, I mean, I could have never ever believed this was possible until it happened. And then you just live constantly in your divine mind. You live in your divine personality. There is no room for the lower human nature. And that is amazing. I mean, you wake up, your mind is always in your divine self. I thought of you this morning when I was connecting to my divine self. First thing in the morning, before you even open your eyes, you connect to your divine self. And I thought, sometimes it's about 700 of us here on these calls in a day. Imagine when 700 of us wake up in the morning and the first thing we do, we connect to the divine self. That glorifies creation. It glorifies Divine Mother. It glorifies Divine Father. It glorifies Source. And so think about each other and us together when you wake up in the morning, how we are all now embodying our divine self. And it, of course, becomes, it's like a movement. It's like when we stand on the earth barefoot, it's a movement. We are moving energies for humanity. Now, I will show you something amazing today. I'm so blown away. So I will also like to share like some ideas for practices now, because, I'm a human being like everyone else here. So I know what it used to be like to have random negative thought that I didn't like, and trying to figure out, why am I thinking this? I don't even want to be thinking stuff like this. Sometimes it was directed, well, actually, mostly it was directed towards the self. Like, oh my gosh, I remember there was a time in my life I was living in Germany, and I had a friend who was an amazing meditator. And I was like, can you please explain self-love to me? And he just looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? When you embody your divinity, how could you not love the self? And I was like, I don't understand this. But now that the divine self is here, self-love, it's not even a thing. It's like you are just so in love with the divine self within, and the divine self doesn't have a name. There is no like, me as Adi, or you as Linda. Sorry, Linda, I just saw your name, so I took you. There is no such thing. We just go beyond it. We just like become this absolute eternal personality of divinity that doesn't begin and doesn't end. So there is then no room for anything else but your divine mind and divine feeling and divine love. It's amazing. And so, like these days when I wake up, I just think, what a miracle that this happened to us. And then transmuting everything with your violet flame, of course, if but go to that top level of your being every day, find that attunement. It is all about attunement. It has to click in perfectly. It's like your physical body now is being attuned to these higher energies. We have to find what is it called? Symmetry. That's why we sit a certain way. That's why we stand and walk a certain way. We are learning again to be symmetric beings. That's part of our ascension process. We are taking this physical body back to the fifth dimensional expression of itself. So think about the way you breathe. Think about the way you are aligned, right? It is these symmetries that are happening within us, like you saw here. Those are important symmetries. But all of these teachings that you see here, they were given to humanity when the divine self was not really easily available. Ascension was not even a thing. It was just something that individuals could attempt through purification of the physical, purification of the mental, purification of the emotional. It was hard work to get anywhere. And it was just not happening. But now it's happening. And it's happening because the earth is exposed to more light, because our bodies have changed so much. They keep changing, every single day we are changing. So the big teaching Divine Mother gave us yesterday, if it was a big teaching, but everything Divine Mother gives us to me is a big teaching, is this, the pendulum. And I didn't find a good picture maybe of a pendulum, but everybody knows what a pendulum is. So think of your mind. Is the mind moving always, left to right, left to right, left to right, creating dualities, creating distortions? I believe that's what the human mind does. And we call it maybe normal, but it is not natural. It is an unnatural state of being. When you go to higher realms, the beings don't actually have random thoughts. They don't also have too many thoughts. They only use creative thought. All thoughts become things. So I've traveled to the fifth dimension. I visited with some beings and I was studying their minds. And so they were always using the mind to be first aligned with what we call, thank you, the Holy Trinity, which is understanding source, understanding the emanations from source, which is Divine Mother, Divine Father. And so they also don't hold memories like we do, because they don't want these random things. They actually have access to any knowledge, any information, if they want to, but they would have to choose to access it and to kind of download it into themselves if they need it. There is no need for them to remember stuff. So they live in presence. They live in actually what I would describe it as like perception. They are constantly perceiving it all with emptiness, but then they give rise to creation through love. Even here on this planet, we are supposed to be beautifying nature, for example. It's not like that you say nature already is perfect because she's divine, but actually the human being was designed to beautify. And actually we were all designed to beautify within creation. So for example, Yogananda, he dedicated his autobiography of a yogi to Luther Burbank. And Luther Burbank was dedicated to kind of improving nature as a horticulturalist here in Santa Rosa, out of all the places. And so that was the divine human realizes that the divine human that we are can actually beautify nature, improve nature, assist nature, never violate her, but always assist her. That's the human genius that we are supposed to use, beautification. pretty incredible. And so we were designed to actually have a still mind originally and to be in our creative process, which is always expressing our divinity. So throughout the day, help yourself with your breath. We had some, I'm going to post the recording from yesterday where we do our breathing to still the pendulum from swinging. And you can do it. You know, the physical body is here to be an amazing, amazing divine tool. We are coming into that amazing alignment through our physicality with our divinity, and both are divine. And so when you put your hands together, for example, just for a moment, just for yourself, you are actually saying, I am stilling the pendulum from swinging. I am coming into my center. Within my center is stillness, and I'm connecting with the pause. And then you take the breath like we did yesterday. We do a very long inhale and you pause, but not by holding breath. We don't hold breath. Yogananda said holding breath would be unscientific. We allow the pause. We observe the pause. And so for a few minutes a day, you can practice. And I recommend practicing this at sunrise, for example, standing barefoot outside and just inhaling and exhaling super slowly, super long, allowing the sun to communicate with you. Give your gratitude to the solar logos for its presence in your life, for illuminating you more and more. And it's amazing. We can really change who we are so beautifully. You know, I always say, like, we are not, like Yogananda said, we are not fossils, we can change. And so you can expect to change everything about your being. So Divine Mother told me yesterday, she said, we must remember all thoughts become things. And she was talking to me about yesterday, and she was kind of like, I was like, oh no, all thoughts are becoming things. And she was showing it to me. She was like, every single thought becomes a thing, whether you see it or not, whether you know it or not. And it should not be scary. But she was like, just slow down, slow down. Humanity, 8 billion of us, let's just slow down a little bit. Let's think this through a little bit. If all thoughts become things, then what thoughts do we want to entertain? So again, don't feel like, oh no, feel like, oh yes, in that case, I am choosing my thoughts. And so your divine self will make this very easy, because we are no longer the human being that we used to be. And let's call it, I'm just going to call it from my perspective, 2020 really changed us. Most beautiful changes. So since we are no longer the old story, then let us get to know the new story. We release it all. Whatever you feel that is not good for you, just burn it in that violet flame. You know, maybe do some magic, you know, burn those, like we said, the string, you know, or just imagine it, visualize it, truly liberate the entire world. We're going to be, again, we are doing this for all. And so we are violet flaming the world. We are beings of the violet fire when we connect with our divine self. And so everywhere you go, you are a being of violet fire. So I love YouTube. I don't like Facebook. I really don't go to Facebook at all, unless like occasionally I do. But YouTube, I love YouTube because it's such an amazing platform for learning and expansion, and it's free. And so I love watching things about near-death experiences, because, you know, sometimes we learn so much from the near-death experiences. And yesterday, this lady came on my news feed as a near-death experience. And I was so excited, and I thought about the synchronicities. So I will play this to you. This lady had 3 near-death experiences. And there is just one part I really wanted to play to you. Think about what Divine Mother told us about thoughts. And so I got to see this yesterday, and it is exactly what we've been talking about. So here she is. She's suffering, and she is about to die, you know, near-death experience. And so this is what she says.
To call for help. We had a ranch style house. In those days, you didn't have, you know, what you have now. All we had was a wall phone in the kitchen. That's it, period, end of story. So I began to crawl from my bedroom through the living room, through the dining room, to get to the wall phone in the kitchen. And it took me forever to crawl. because very, very painful. And I made it as far as the dining room. And I died. I died, and I floated up from my body, and lots and lots of things happened. Incredible things happened, being able to see thought, create things on the other side.
Were you met by somebody?
No, never was. The idea that you're always met by someone is false.
Okay.
Most people are met by someone, but not everybody. And in my cases, I was never met by anyone in all three.
So so you never had a being, you never had a council of elders. Did you have life reviews or anything like that?
In this one, I did.
Okay.
I had a life review. I had an experience with creation. I had an experience with the void. And then I had the life review. And in my case, that life review included not only what I did, but the result of every thought I had ever thought on the environment, on other people, on the world at large, plus my just being in the earth world, the vibration of my being here, what the causality of that was with the air, with the water, with the ground, with the plants. So I had the whole gestalt of my ever having existed in the earth plane. And that to me was hell, in the sense that nobody ever told me that every thought you think goes out and has a life of its own. Nobody ever taught me that. Nobody ever taught me that my vibration, just being in the world, wherever I walked, changes the world, or affects the world, or has an effect on the rocks, the plants, everything, the air. Nobody ever told me that. And that to me was a shock. And I was just looking at that and just, oh my goodness. And, many, many things happened.
So that was, to me, unbelievably empowering with the work that we do here, and that we're going to do more of today as well, and tomorrow. Isn't this incredible? Isn't this unbelievable? And think about this. Divine Mother is the mother of elements. Divine Mother is the mother of nature. Divine Mother is the mother of water, air, fire, earth, ether, all of it. And so when we think, we are constantly imprinting our thoughts on creation. So to me, this was unbelievable. So I thought, wow, how much bliss have we put into this earth? Because we every day co-create bliss here. And, I always say, anchor it into the earth. I have a spot where I go millions of times a day and I anchor into that one spot, all the bliss that we generate here every single day. And I was like, that spot is going to be a holy place in the future. People will come here and say, wow, what a vibration. And so find a place in nature where you anchor your bliss. Wherever you stand with your feet, it's amazing, unbelievable. Yes, I'm excited about this. And so today, out of all the wonderful things that we could be doing, we're going to be receiving joy and love from our divine self. Once again, asking and receiving from your divine self. Doesn't get any better. All of us, the same divine self, split into many. You know how joyful that divine self is? What Patricia calls the cosmic I am? Because we are all doing it. It's amazing. And so here we are. I'm going to stop recording as always. It is absolutely incredible, of course. And so what is the key to this work? Well, the key is, which you can study in all the work of Oren, how to connect with the divine self. Because it's not just words that we say. We don't just ask and it is given. We have to attune. It's like dialing that phone number perfectly, you know, the right number. And then we get response. So we want to have the phone number for our divine self and dial it in. I always ask for a signal. So sometimes I don't receive the signal that I've connected properly, then I know, oh, okay, so I need to attune better. So sit better, breathe better, you know, empty the mind, open the heart. There are steps to follow. All of this is connected to the open magnetic heart, right? If the heart is not in a state of love for the divine self is you. You are the divine self if you choose that to be so. Now it is possible. None of this is hard work. And so that is the new level of self-love, where there is no need to love the self. We just become the divine self, and the divine self is love. This is like a whole new level of existence, of course. So our ascension process is a very physical process. But it is a physical process where the divine self embodies into the beautiful elemental being that the body is. And the body allows this divinity to actually change the body back to how it used to be, fifth dimensional body. So the fifth dimensional body has differently operating matter. And we have been changed and we are changing even more. Now, why is it? So let's say that you are like a device that you plug into the outlet. You need to be able to handle the voltage that will be running through you. So we are changing so that we can handle the voltage of the divine power running through us in these higher solar worlds. The Earth herself is becoming a solar world. I have seen the ascension process, you know, when I see it, it's very quick, and I always hope it's going to be as quick as I see that it is quick. But there is something about the core of the earth holding the new solar world that will be birthed into being. You and me are becoming solar light beings. And I always say you can support your ascension process. This is the physical body changing so that the physical body doesn't hold the densities of human unconsciousness. So we will be exposed to more and more and more energy. And the physical body also is connected to the mental body, to the emotional body, to the etheric body, all of it, right? So that's why we are taking this approach. Physically, to me, that's the easiest thing we can change, is what we eat, what we drink, how we exercise, how we breathe, what we chant. That's the easy part. And so then we bring the divine self down and say, please transform my mind, please transform my mental body, please change my emotional body, and let's purify the etheric body too. And so this is possible now. This is like a huge, huge upgrade for humankind, of course. So tell everyone that you love, tell everyone who's open to this about the divine self. Tell them about the body changing so that people are not in fear, because people have been in fear the last, 3 years. And yet it is this amazing, amazing change happening through us. We are now in a new place, absorbing new life force, and it's awakening in us. It is she who is awakening us, by the way. It is she, the mother, awakening in the body. She's awakening in the body of the earth, as well as in all our bodies. Allow her to be awake. And so it is. And so we'll repeat this today at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I will post the recordings. And also tomorrow is our final journey with the divine self in this lunar cycle, and it's going to be blissful. So thank you so much. And I will be thinking of your divine self when I connect to mine. That is amazing. I like it. Thank you so much. Bye.